Nobody showed up to my graduation. I'm standing in the middle of Poly Pavilion at UCLA, May sunlight pouring through the skylights, 8,000 people screaming their heads off, and the reserved for families section in front of me, row G, seats 12 through 15, is completely empty. Just 4 blue plastic chairs reflecting light like they're mocking me. My name echoes through the sound system. Camila Elaine Torres, Master of Data Analytics, summa cum laude. I hear it. I register it. But I don't move. If this story of justice against abuse of power resonated with you, hit like and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're new here, subscribe now. You absolutely don't want to miss tomorrow's deep dive into authorities who picked the wrong victim. And the moment the truth finally came out. Because I'm scanning the crowd one more time, squinting past the sea of navy gowns and iPhone cameras held high, searching for my parents, for my younger sister, for anyone with my last name who said they'd be here. Nothing. A guy behind me nudges my shoulder. Yo, you gotta walk. I do. I smile for the photographer, grip my diploma so tight the embossed UCLA seal digs into my palm, and somehow make it back to my seat without my legs giving out. Around me, families are losing it, moms sobbing, dads bear hugging their kids, someone's abuela waving a homemade poster that says, Mija, low grassed. I sit down and pretend to check my phone. No missed calls. No texts. Just a CNN alert about traffic on the 405, and a Venmo notification from 3 days ago when I sent my parents gas money. That's when I feel it. Not sadness. Not even anger yet. Just this cold, creeping realization that I've been working toward a moment that was never going to matter to them. 10 years of community college transfers, night shifts at a West Hollywood Starbucks, weekend coding boot camps in a Koreatown library, 2 foster families before I aged out of the system at 18. All of it building toward this, and the people I convinced myself were my family didn't even bother to lie about why they weren't coming. I leave Westwood alone. I sit in my 2015 Honda Civic in a parking structure on Veteran Avenue, windows cracked, listening to the hum of graduates and their families flooding out into the California heat. Balloons. Flower bouquets. Mariachi bands someone hired to play outside Ackerman Union. I'm about to start the engine when my phone buzzes. Mom. For one stupid second my heart lifts. Maybe she's calling to apologize. Maybe there was an emergency. Maybe. I swipe to open the message. Need $15,000 for Vanessa's wedding by Friday. Venmo or Zelle is fine. Vendors need deposits. I read it 3 times. No congratulations. No sorry we missed it. Not even a hey. Just a dollar amount. A deadline. And my sister's name. Vanessa. 24 years old, never held a job longer than 4 months. Lives in a rent-controlled apartment in Pasadena that I helped cover twice when she forgot to pay. Vanessa, who got a brand new Hyundai Tucson for her birthday last year, while I was rotating my tires at a Pep Boys in Inglewood, because I couldn't afford a mechanic. Vanessa, whose wedding I didn't even know was happening until right now. I set the phone face down on my lap and stare out the windshield at a family packing a silver Lexus. The dad's loading a cooler. The mom's taking selfies with her daughter, who's still in her cap and gown, both of them laughing. Something in my chest doesn't break. It clicks. Like a lock I didn't know was there finally turning over. I pick up my phone, open Venmo, and type in my mom's username. I set the amount. $1 in the notes section I write. Congrats on the wedding. And I hit send. Then I do something I've never done in my entire life. I block her number. I block my dad's. I block Vanessa's. I sit there for a long time, engine still off, the sun setting over the San Gabriel Mountains in the distance, and I let the silence settle around me like a new kind of gravity, because I just realized something they're going to wish I hadn't. I've been keeping receipts for years. Here's what nobody tells you about being the responsible one in a family. It's not a compliment. It's a job description. And you don't get paid. You just get used. For 10 years, I convinced myself I was helping. That's what family does, right? You step up. You cover the gap. You wire $200 here, $500 there, because your mom says the electricity's about to get shut off or your dad needs new work boots or your sister's car broke down again. always again, and they just need a little help getting through the month. Except the month never ends. I started working at 16. Not because I wanted spending money, but because my foster parents made it clear that once I turned 18, I was on my own. So I learned early how to open a bank account, how to save, how to make myself useful enough that maybe, just maybe, someone would want to keep me around. When I aged out of the system, I got placed with a distant aunt in Boyle Heights. She wasn't cruel. She just wasn't interested. But my mom, my biological mom, the one who gave me up when I was 11 because she couldn't handle it, started calling again when I turned 19. Suddenly, I had a family. Suddenly, I mattered. Or so I thought. The requests started small. $20 for groceries. $50 for a prescription. I sent it because I wanted to believe we were rebuilding something. That I was finally worth keeping. By the time I transferred to UCLA, I was sending money almost every month. My mom called it helping out. My dad called it doing your part. Vanessa never called it anything because she never acknowledged it at all. She just kept living her life, new nails, new outfits, new boyfriend every 6 months. While I lived in a studio in Palms with 2 roommates and rotated the same 4 shirts for 3 years. But I kept telling myself it was temporary. That once I graduated, once I got a real job, everything would balance out. That they'd see how hard I worked. That I'd finally be part of something. I should have known better. Because 3 days after my graduation, the one they didn't show up to, the one where I sat alone while 8,000 other people celebrated with their families, my mom texted me a Venmo request for $15,000. Not a loan. Not a question. A demand. For Vanessa's wedding. And here's the thing that made my blood go cold. I didn't even know Vanessa was engaged. Nobody told me. Nobody invited me. Nobody thought to mention that my sister, the golden child who could do no wrong, whose every whim got funded without question, was planning a whole wedding. But when it came time to pay for it, suddenly I was family again. That's when I started looking back. Really looking. At my bank statements, at the years of transfers, at every emergency that somehow always landed in my lap. I pulled up my Chase account on my laptop that night in my apartment on Sepulveda, scrolling back month by month, year by year, watching the numbers pile up like evidence I'd been too afraid to see. Rent assistance when Vanessa got evicted from her place in Glendale. $1,800. Car repairs after she rear-ended someone on the 10 freeway. $2,400. Emergency dental work for my dad that he never got done. $900. My mom's phone bill because she forgot to pay it. $340. For times. Security deposit for Vanessa's next apartment after the eviction. $2,200. Insurance payment. Utility bill. Groceries. Gas. Birthday money for Vanessa that I was told would be from all of us. It went on and on. By the time I finished scrolling, I'd sent nearly $47,000 over 6 years. I sat back, staring at the screen, my hands shaking. $47,000. That was a down payment on a house. That was a car. That was my entire financial future, siphoned off piece by piece, while I worked doubles and skipped meals and told myself it was love. But it wasn't love. It was a system. And I was the one funding it. And now they wanted $15,000 more. I looked at my phone. The one I'd just used to send them a single dollar and the words, "Congrats on the wedding." I thought about what would happen next. The calls. The guilt trips. The accusations. The threats. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid. Because I realized something they didn't know yet. I'd been keeping records. Every transfer. Every request. Every text message asking for just a little help. And I was done helping. What they didn't know, what they were about to find out, was that saying no wasn't going to be the end of the story. It was going to be the beginning of theirs unraveling. I need you to understand something about growing up invisible. You learn to make yourself useful, or you disappear completely. I was 11 when my mom dropped me off at a group home in East LA. She didn't say much. Just that she couldn't do it anymore. That I was too much. That she needed to focus on herself and Vanessa. who was 7 at the time and apparently easier to love. I remember standing on the sidewalk with a garbage bag full of clothes, watching her taillights fade down Whittier Boulevard, wondering what I'd done wrong. I spent the next 7 years moving between 3 different foster homes and 2 group placements. Van Nuys, Montebello, a 6-month stint in Riverside that felt like a different planet. Some families were kind but overworked. Others were just collecting checks. None of them were mine. By 16, I was working the opening shift at a Starbucks on Sunset, pulling espresso shots at 4:30 a.m. before school. I saved everything. Not because I had big dreams, but because I knew the second I turned 18, the state would stop caring whether I had a roof or not. When my caseworker finally placed me with my tia Lupe in Boyle Heights 2 months before I aged out, I thought maybe I'd gotten lucky. She wasn't warm, but she was stable. She didn't ask much. I paid her $300 a month for a corner of the living room with a futon and a lamp, and we mostly stayed out of each other's way. That's when my mom started calling again. At first it was just texts, checking in, asking how I was. I didn't respond for months because I didn't trust it. But she kept trying and eventually I caved. I wanted to believe she'd changed. That maybe, after all those years, she finally wanted me back. The first time she asked for money, I was 19, working 2 jobs and taking night classes at East LA College. She called crying, said the power was about to get shut off, said Vanessa was scared of the dark, said she didn't know what else to do. I sent $200. She called me her miracle. It felt like the best $200 I'd ever spent. After that, the requests came every few weeks. Always urgent. Always framed as temporary. Gas money because Dad's truck was on empty and he had to get to work in El Monte. Groceries because they came up short at the register. A late fee on rent because the landlord was threatening eviction. I sent it all. Because every time I did, I got a text back. Thank you, Mija. You're saving us. For a girl who spent her childhood wondering why she wasn't worth keeping, those words felt like oxygen. Meanwhile, Vanessa's life looked like an Instagram highlight reel. New apartment in Pasadena with exposed brick and a balcony. Brunch photos at Republic. Weekend trips to Palm Springs with her boyfriend. She worked part-time at a boutique in Old Town, and somehow always had fresh nails, fresh highlights, and a closet full of Zara. When I asked my mom how Vanessa afforded it all, she'd just smile and say, "Your sister's got a good eye. She knows how to make things work." What she didn't say, what I didn't realize until much later, was that I was the one making it work. When Vanessa got evicted from her first apartment for not paying rent, I covered her deposit on the next one. $2,200. My mom said it was a loan, that Vanessa would pay me back once she got her tax return. She never did. When Vanessa rear-ended someone on the 10 and didn't have insurance, I paid the $2,400 in repairs. My dad said I was being a good sister, that family looks out for each other. But nobody ever looked out for me. By the time I transferred to UCLA, I was living in a cramped studio in Palms with 2 roommates, sleeping on an air mattress, and eating dollar tacos from the truck on Motor Avenue. I told myself it was temporary, that once I graduated, once I landed a real job, everything would level out. I worked my ass off. I graduated summa cum laude with a master's in data analytics. I had job offers from tech companies in Santa Monica and Culver City. I'd made it. But my family didn't show up to see it. Instead, they sent me a bill. Not in those words, of course. But that's what the text was. $15,000 for Vanessa's wedding. Due by Friday. No congratulations. No acknowledgement that I'd just accomplished something most people in our family never had. Just another request. Another emergency. Another expectation that I'd say yes because I always did. But this time something was different. This time, I didn't send the money. I sent $1. And a message. And then I did something I should have done years ago. I stopped answering. The day of my graduation, I woke up at 5 a.m. in my studio apartment in Palms, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was going to be different this time. They'd promised. Both of them. My mom had texted 2 weeks earlier. We wouldn't miss it for the world, Mija. So proud of you. My dad sent a thumbs up emoji. Vanessa didn't respond at all, but I told myself that was fine. She was busy. She'd show up. I spent an hour getting ready, pressed my cap and gown, put on the nicest blouse I owned, even did my makeup, which I never do. I wanted to look put together, like someone whose family would be proud to sit in the reserved section and watch her walk across the stage. By the time I got to Pauley Pavilion, the stadium was already buzzing. Families everywhere, moms adjusting their daughters' tassels, dads taking 1,000 pictures, little siblings running around with balloons. The energy was electric, the kind that makes your chest feel full even if you're nervous. I found my seat in the graduate section and immediately pulled out my phone. No new messages. I texted my mom. "I'm here. Where are you guys sitting?" 10 minutes passed. Nothing. The ceremony started. The dean gave a speech about resilience and transformation. A student speaker talked about overcoming adversity. The whole time, I kept glancing at the family section, row G, seats 12 through 15. The ones I'd reserved months ago. The ones I'd sent my parents' confirmation numbers for. Empty. For blue plastic chairs sitting there under the lights, reflecting the stadium glow like they were taunting me. I told myself they were running late. LA traffic is brutal. Maybe they got stuck on the 405. Maybe they're parking right now. But when my name was called, Camila Elaine Torres, Master of Data Analytics, summa cum laude, I looked one more time. Still nothing. I stood up. Walked across the stage. Shook the dean's hand. Took my diploma. Smiled for the photographer, even though my throat was closing up and my hands were shaking. Around me, the crowd erupted. But not for me. For the girl before me whose entire family stood up screaming. For the guy after me whose dad was crying so hard he had to sit back down. I walked back to my seat holding my diploma like it was evidence. Proof that I'd done something. That I mattered. But the section stayed empty. After the ceremony, I stood in the courtyard while everyone took family photos. A classmate, Ruby, found me and squealed, threw her arms around me. Her parents insisted on taking pictures with us, both of them beaming like I was their kid too. Ruby's mom asked, "Where's your family?" "Running late." I smiled. "Yeah, traffic." The lie came so easy it scared me. I stayed as long as I could, pretending to check my phone, pretending I was waiting for someone. But eventually the crowd thinned. The balloons sagged. The families packed up and left. I walked to my car alone, sat in the driver's seat and finally checked my phone. One message. From my mom. But it wasn't an apology. It was a Venmo request. Need $15,000 for Vanessa's wedding by Friday. I stared at it until the screen went dark. And that's when I stopped pretending. I sat in my car in that Westwood parking garage for 20 minutes, engine off, windows cracked, just staring at my phone. The message was still there. Glowing. Waiting. Need $15,000 for Vanessa's wedding by Friday. Venmo or Zelle is fine. Vendors need deposits. I read it again. And again. Like if I stared long enough, the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Into something that didn't feel like a knife. No hey. No congratulations on graduating. Not even a sorry we couldn't make it. Just a number. A deadline. And my sister's name. $15,000. For a wedding I didn't even know was happening. I scrolled up through our text history, looking for something, anything, that mentioned Vanessa getting engaged. A save the date. A guess what message. Even a casual, she said yes. Nothing. The last text from my mom before today was from 3 days ago. Can you Venmo $60 for groceries? Tight week. I'd sent it immediately. Like I always did. But nobody thought to tell me my sister was getting married. Nobody thought to invite me. They just thought to bill me. I felt my hands start to shake. Not from sadness. Not even from anger yet. Just this cold, creeping awareness spreading through my chest like frost. This wasn't new. This was the pattern. I thought about all the times I'd sent money. The emergencies that were never really emergencies. The rent Vanessa couldn't cover. The car repairs. The insurance payment. The endless requests that always came with the same soft guilt. We wouldn't ask if we didn't need it. But they always asked. And I always sent it. Because I thought that's what family did. I thought if I just kept showing up, kept helping, kept proving I was worth something, eventually they'd see me the way I saw them. But sitting there in my Honda Civic, cap and gown still in the back seat, diploma sitting on the passenger seat like a cruel joke, I finally understood. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as an ATM. I opened my banking app. My hands were steadier now. I navigated to Venmo, typed in my mom's username, and hovered over the amount. For a second, just 1 second, I thought about sending it. About swallowing the hurt and playing my role. About being the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who doesn't make waves. But then I thought about those 4 empty chairs. I thought about standing alone in that courtyard, pretending I was waiting for someone who was never coming. I thought about the 10 years I'd spent working, saving, sacrificing, sending money home so my family could live comfortably while I rotated the same 4 outfits and $8 tacos for dinner. And I thought about Vanessa. Vanessa, who never once said thank you. Vanessa, who posted photos from brunch spots I couldn't afford and took trips I funded without knowing it. Vanessa, whose wedding I wasn't invited to. Vanessa, who was about to get exactly what she deserved from me. I typed in the amount. $1. In the notes section I wrote, "Congrats on the wedding." And I hit send. Then I opened my contacts. One by one I blocked them. Mom. Dad. Vanessa. The silence that followed wasn't scary. It was the first breath I'd taken in years. I started the car, pulled out of the parking structure, and drove home. And for the first time since I was 11 years old, I didn't feel guilty for choosing myself. I didn't cry that night. I wanted to. I could feel it building in my chest, this hot, tight pressure that made my ribs ache. But the tears wouldn't come. Maybe I'd used them all up years ago, sitting on a curb in East LA with a garbage bag full of clothes, watching my mom drive away. Instead, I just sat on my futon in the dark, staring at my phone, waiting for the fallout. It came faster than I expected. 3 missed calls from my mom within the first hour. Then my dad. Then Vanessa, which was almost funny because she never called me. Not for birthdays. Not for holidays. Only when she needed something. I didn't pick up. The voicemails started piling up. My mom's voice shaky and confused. "Mija, I don't understand. Did you mean to send $1? Call me back." My dad's irritated. "Camila, this isn't funny. Your mother's upset. Call us." Vanessa's sharp and indignant. "Are you seriously doing this right now? It's my wedding. Grow up." I listened to each one twice. Not because I was reconsidering, but because I needed to hear it. I needed to hear the entitlement in their voices, the assumption that I owed them, the complete absence of acknowledgement that they'd missed the most important day of my life. That's when it hit me. Not the anger. Not yet. The grief. I grieved for the version of myself who believed that if I just worked hard enough, gave enough, proved myself enough, they'd finally love me the way I loved them. I grieved for the little girl who spent years thinking she was too much, too difficult, too broken to keep. I grieved for every time I sent money I couldn't afford because I thought it was buying me a place at the table. But mostly, I grieved for the daughter I'd tried so hard to be. The responsible one, the dependable one, the one who never asked for anything. And realized she was never going to be enough. Because it was never about me. It was about what I could give. And the moment I stopped giving, I stopped mattering. I thought about all the times I made excuses for them. When they missed my community college graduation, I told myself it was too far to drive. When they forgot my birthday, I told myself they were busy. When they didn't call after I got into UCLA, I told myself they were proud but didn't know how to say it. I'd spent so many years translating their silence into love that I forgot what actual love was supposed to feel like. It wasn't supposed to come with invoices. It wasn't supposed to require proof of worth. It wasn't supposed to show up only when it needed something. I pulled up my bank statements again. Scrolled through years of transfers. Each one a little piece of myself I'd given away, hoping it would be enough to make them stay. $47,000. That's how much I'd spent trying to buy a family that was never for sale. Because they didn't want me. They wanted my money. And once I finally saw that, really saw it, without the excuses, without the denial, something inside me didn't break. It solidified. I wasn't the problem. I never was. I was just the solution to problems that weren't mine. And I was done solving them. I opened my laptop. My hands were steady now. Clear. I pulled up every bank statement, every Venmo transaction, every text message where they'd asked for help. I organized them by date, by amount, by the excuse they'd used. I wasn't doing it to hurt them. I was doing it to protect myself. Because I knew what came next. The guilt trips, the manipulation, the accusations that I was selfish, ungrateful, cruel. But this time, I had proof. Proof that I'd given everything. Proof that they'd taken it all. And proof that when it finally mattered, when I needed them to just show up, they couldn't even do that. I saved everything in a folder labeled evidence. And then I did something I'd never done before. I went to bed without apologizing for existing. The calls didn't stop. For 3 days straight, my phone lit up like a slot machine. My mom. My dad. Vanessa. Then numbers I didn't recognize. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Family friends I'd met maybe twice. Even my tia Lupe, who never got involved in anything. All of them saying the same thing. Family doesn't do this. You're being selfish. Your sister's heartbroken. How could you? I didn't respond to any of them. On the 4th day, someone knocked on my door. It was 9 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. I looked through the peephole and saw 2 LAPD officers standing in the hallway, radios crackling on their belts. My stomach dropped. I opened the door slowly. Yes. The older one, a white guy in his 40s with tired eyes, pulled out a notepad. Are you Camila Torres? I am. We received a wellness check request from your mother. She says you've been acting erratically, changed your locks, won't respond to calls, and she's concerned you might harm yourself. For a second, I couldn't breathe. She called the police. She actually called the police. Not to apologize. Not to check on me like a normal person. But to weaponize authority, to paint me as unstable, to punish me for saying no. The younger officer, a Latina woman with sharp eyes, studied my face carefully. Mind if we come in? I stepped aside. My apartment was small but clean. Laptop open on the kitchen table. Diploma framed on the wall. A half-eaten bowl of ramen on the counter. The male officer glanced around. You look fine to me. I am fine, I said, voice steadier than I felt. I just graduated with my master's. I'm job hunting. I've been setting boundaries with my family and apparently they didn't like that. The female officer nodded slowly. Does your mother have a key to this place? She used to. I changed the locks. That you're right, she said. You're an adult. The male officer closed his notepad. We'll file this as no concern. If she calls again, reference this visit. They left. The door clicked shut. And I stood there shaking. Not from fear, but from rage. My mother hadn't just crossed a line. She'd declared war. I sat down at my laptop, hands trembling, and opened my email. Something felt wrong. I logged into my credit monitoring account, the free one I'd signed up for in college, and my blood went cold. 2 new credit inquiries. Capital One. Discover. I hadn't applied for any credit cards. I clicked through. 2 accounts had been opened in my name within the last month. Both showed balances already climbing into the thousands. My chest tightened. I pulled up the transaction history. Cherry Creek Events, Denver. Wait, Denver? Vanessa didn't live in Denver. But that's where her fiancé was from. I kept scrolling. DJ services. Catering deposits. A bridal boutique in Cherry Creek. Floral arrangements. Venue rental. Thousands of dollars. Charged to cards I never opened. Using my name. My social security number. My credit. I clicked on the account details. The billing address wasn't mine. It was my parents' house in Pico Rivera. And listed as a co-applicant. Linda M. Torres. My mother. She hadn't just asked me for $15,000. She'd already spent it. In my name. Without my knowledge. Without my permission. She'd committed identity theft. For a wedding I wasn't even invited to. I sat back staring at the screen, my hands shaking so hard I had to grip the edge of the table. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was fraud. And she did it knowing I'd find out eventually. She just assumed, like she always assumed, that I'd cover it. That I'd pay it off quietly, like I always did. Because that's what the responsible one does. But not this time. I opened my phone and called the fraud hotline on the back of the credit card statement. A woman answered. I explained everything. She put me on hold. When she came back, her voice was careful, professional. Miss Torres, this account was opened in person at a branch in Pico Rivera. The co-applicant listed is Linda M. Torres. We'll flag this for investigation. You'll receive forms within 24 hours. I thanked her and hung up. Then I opened my voice recorder. In California, I only needed one party's consent to record a call. And I was about to get exactly what I needed. I dialed my mother's number. She picked up on the second ring, her voice sharp and defensive. So you're alive? Mom, I said evenly. I found credit cards opened in my name. Want to explain? She laughed. Hollow. Practiced. That. I was helping you build credit, Mija. You should be grateful. I didn't authorize it. It's family money, Camila. What's yours is ours. I saved the recording. Labeled it. Evidence May 18th. And for the first time since this started, I smiled. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was panicking. Not because I was second-guessing myself. But because I was finally seeing everything clearly for the first time in my life. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, a legal pad next to me, and a cup of coffee I'd reheated twice. Outside, Los Angeles hummed, sirens in the distance, a helicopter circling over mid-city, the low rumble of the 10 freeway a mile away. But inside my apartment, everything was quiet, focused. I opened a new spreadsheet and titled it, The Real Cost. Then I started pulling records. Bank statements going back 8 years. Venmo transactions. Zelle transfers. Text messages where my mom asked for just a little help. Voicemails where my dad said they were coming up short this month. Every single request. Every single dollar. I created columns: date, amount, reason given, actual use if I could verify it. The first entry was from 2016. I was 19, working at Starbucks, taking night classes at East LA College. March 12, 2016, $200. Electricity bill or they'll shut it off. Verified, paid. Fair enough. That one was real. But then I kept going. April 8, 2016, $150. Groceries were really struggling. Unverified. May 22, 2016, $300. Car insurance due, Dad needs the truck for work. Unverified. June 30, 2016, $180. Vanessa needs books for summer class. Unverified. The pattern was already forming. I kept scrolling. Kept typing. The numbers added up faster than I wanted them to. 2017, $4,100. 2018, $6,300. 2019, $7,800. By the time I got to 2023, the year I started my master's program, I was sending an average of $900 a month. Not because they asked once, because they asked constantly. And I said yes every single time. When I reached the end of the spreadsheet, I sat back and stared at the total. $52,400. $52,400. In 8 years. That wasn't helping. That was funding their entire lives. I cross-referenced the dates with my own milestones. The months I was barely eating because I couldn't afford groceries and rent. The semester I couldn't buy my textbooks and had to share with a classmate. The time I had to skip a dentist appointment because I just sent my mom $600 for emergency car repairs. And then I looked at Vanessa's Instagram. I scrolled back through her posts, matching the dates. June 2019. I sent my parents $800 for rent. June 2019. Vanessa posted photos from Coachella. VIP wristbands. Matching outfits with her friends. December 2020. I sent $1,200 to cover Vanessa's security deposit after she got evicted. December 2020. Vanessa posted a selfie in a brand new North Face jacket with the tag still visible in the corner of the mirror. March 2022. I sent $2,400 for her car repairs after she rear-ended someone. March 2022. Vanessa posted a girls' trip to Palm Springs. Pool cabana. Bottomless mimosas. Every time I gave, she gained. And no one ever told me. I pulled up the text from my mom. The one from graduation day. Need $15,000 for Vanessa's wedding by Friday. It wasn't a request. It was a bill. For a wedding they'd already been planning. For deposits they'd already made. Using credit cards they'd opened in my name because they knew I'd figure it out eventually. And they assumed I'd just pay it off like I always did. They weren't asking me to help. They were expecting me to clean up the mess. Again. But this time they miscalculated. Because this time, I had evidence. I opened a new document and started drafting an email to the credit card fraud departments. Attached my ID. Attached the police report from the wellness check. Attached screenshots of my mother's texts and the recorded phone call where she admitted to opening accounts in my name to help me build credit. I didn't write it with anger. I wrote it with precision. Every sentence clear. Every claim backed by documentation. When I finished, I reread it 3 times. Then I hit send. To Capital One. To Discover. To the credit bureaus. I reported identity theft. Against my own mother. And I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Because for years, I'd been trying to solve a problem I didn't create. I'd been pouring myself into a family that saw me as a resource, not a daughter. But now? Now they were going to face the consequences of treating me like an ATM instead of a person. I closed my laptop and looked at the clock. 3:47 a.m. The city outside was still dark, but the sky over the San Gabriel Mountains was just starting to lighten. That soft, pale glow that comes right before sunrise. I stood up, stretched, and walked to the window. For the first time in 8 years, I didn't owe anyone anything. And that felt better than any amount of money I'd ever sent home. The wedding was supposed to be perfect. I know because Vanessa posted every detail. The venue, a boutique hotel in Cherry Creek, Denver, with mountain views and string lights wrapped around aspen trees. The dress, off-the-shoulder lace for $1,000, paid for with a credit card in my name. The guest list. 120 people, none of whom included me. I wasn't there. But I didn't need to be. Because at 7:15 p.m., right between cocktail hour and dinner service, 2 Denver police officers walked through the front doors of the reception hall. I know the exact time because my phone rang at 7:22 p.m. Pacific. Unknown number. I answered. Miss Torres, this is Detective Lauren Stein with the Denver Police Financial Crimes Unit. I'm calling to inform you that we've just made contact with Linda Torres at a wedding venue in Cherry Creek. We're documenting the fraud case you reported. You're not required to be present, but I wanted to keep you updated. My hands went numb. You're there? Right now? Yes, ma'am. We coordinated with the credit card companies. They flagged the charges tied to this event, and we're verifying the transactions on site. I sat down on my futon, heart pounding. What happens now? We'll take statements, collect receipts, and document everything. Your mother's been notified that the accounts were opened fraudulently. She'll have to work with the banks to resolve this. I thanked her, hung up, and stared at my phone. They were at Vanessa's wedding. In front of everyone. My phone buzzed. A text from a cousin I hadn't heard from in years. Cops just showed up at Vanessa's wedding. What's going on? Then another. From a different cousin. Did you call the police on Mom? Then Vanessa. Are you insane? The police are here. Everyone is staring. You ruined everything. I didn't reply. I just sat there, imagining the scene. The DJ stopping mid-song. Guests turning toward the door. My mother's face draining of color as 2 officers approached her near the head table, badges out. Voices calm but firm. Ma'am, we need to speak with you about fraudulent credit accounts opened under Camila Torres. The whispers spreading through the room. Phones coming out. Videos starting. Vanessa standing in her $4,000 dress, the one purchased with stolen credit. Realizing that her perfect day was unraveling in real time. My mom trying to explain. Trying to smooth it over. Trying to perform her way out of consequences the way she always had. But this time, there was documentation. Signatures. Statements. A recorded phone call where she admitted everything. This time, there was no escape. Over the next week, the emails came in. Capital One, fraud investigation resolved. Account closed. Balance forgiven. Lindam. Torres responsible for repayment. Discover, same result. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. All fraudulent inquiries removed from my credit report. My mother had to repay $18,000 out of her own pocket for a wedding I was never invited to. I didn't gloat. I didn't post about it. I didn't even tell anyone outside of my close friends. But I did one thing. I framed my UCLA diploma and hung it on the wall of my apartment, right next to a printed copy of the fraud resolution letter. 2 pieces of paper, side by side. One proving what I earned, one proving what I protected. And every time I looked at them, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not because I hurt them, but because I finally chose myself. 3 months later, I started my new job at a tech company in Playa Vista. 6-figure salary. Benefits. A team that respected my work. My family stopped calling. And I stopped waiting for them to. Because I finally understood. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's building a life so strong that no one can take it from you. If you're still watching this, I want you to know something. This story isn't just mine. It belongs to every person who's ever been called the responsible one and realized too late that it wasn't a compliment. It was a sentence. It belongs to every kid who aged out of foster care and spent years trying to prove they were worth keeping. It belongs to every daughter or son who sent money home until their own bank account looked like a crime scene. All because they believed that love was something you earned through sacrifice. And it belongs to you if you've ever sat alone at a milestone moment, graduation, promotion, birthday, whatever, and realized the people who were supposed to show up never planned to in the first place. Here's what I learned, and I need you to hear this. You are not selfish for saying no. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. You are not ungrateful for refusing to fund someone else's life while yours falls apart. And you are not obligated to keep giving to people who only see you as a resource. For years, I thought I was helping my family. I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister. I thought if I just gave enough, worked hard enough, proved myself enough, they'd finally see me the way I saw them. But the truth is they saw me just fine. They saw someone they could use. And the moment I stopped being useful, I stopped being family. That's not love. That's extraction. And if you're in that situation right now, if you're the one everyone calls when they need money, when they need help, when they need someone to clean up their mess, I want you to ask yourself one question. When's the last time they showed up for you? Not with words, not with promises, but with actual presence, actual effort, actual care. If you can't remember, that's your answer. I'm not saying cut everyone off. I'm not saying blow up your life. But I am saying this. Document everything. Every request. Every transfer. Every text message that starts with "Can you help just this once?" Because if they're willing to take from you, they're willing to lie about it when you finally push back. And when that moment comes, and it will come, you'll need proof. Not for them. For yourself. To remind yourself that you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not the villain in a story you didn't write. After everything that happened, people asked me if I regretted it. If I regretted sending that $1. If I regretted reporting the fraud. If I regretted ruining my sister's wedding. And the answer is no. Because I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending that dysfunction was love. I stopped funding a system that was built to drain me. And I started building a life where my worth wasn't measured by how much I could give, but by how much I was willing to protect. Today, I live in a small apartment in Culver City. I work at a company that values my skills. I have friends who show up without being asked. I have a therapist who reminds me that boundaries aren't walls. They're doors, and I get to decide who walks through. And I have peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't require me to shrink, to apologize, or to keep paying for a seat at a table that was never mine to begin with. So if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about your own family, your own boundaries, your own breaking point, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Let me know this story mattered. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your story if you feel safe sharing it. Because I promise you, someone in this comment section needs to hear that they're not alone. And if you're new here, subscribe right now. Because tomorrow, I'm diving into another story about someone who was pushed too far, fought back quietly, and watched everything shift when the truth finally came out. You don't want to miss it. My name is Camila Torres. I walked across that stage alone. But I'm not alone anymore. And neither are you.